Okay, doing a hike here at Hathaway Preserve at Ross Run. So this is more or less an experimental video, right? This will be the first video I'm making. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna clip you right here onto my jacket and we'll be off. So it is Wednesday, December 30th, 2020. Temperature in the low 40s. A little bit of rain this morning, but looks like the rain has died down for a little bit. However, it was enough rain to chase off most any other hikers, right? The lot here is empty except for me. So Hathaway Preserve, a little bit muddy today because of the rain, but not too bad. So this is Hathaway Preserve at Ross Run. Ross Run is the name of the creek. Maybe you can see there. Runs all along the edge of the property here. So I'm going to do the big loop, kind of going around the edges of the property. And we'll stop and talk about a couple things as we go. So one reason I like Ross Run is you have a lot of variety in the landscape. So you have kind of hardwood forests with some oaks, some maples, which I guess aren't a hardwood. Gotta get over this little creek right here. Doesn't look too bad except for the fact that it's muddy, so I just want to make sure that I don't slip on the other side. There we go. But back to talking about Hathaway, right? So you have the forest area. You also have a white pine forest, and you've got sort of prairie area. And in the forest area, you also have, walking by the creek, and you've got some ravines, some cliffs, a couple of waterfalls. We'll get to see a couple waterfalls today too. So in this short area here, you've got just a lot of variety in the landscape. So that's just really kind of nice. So it's December, so we're probably not going to see very many or any flowers. No leaves on the tree. A lot of browns. As I said, today's in the 40s, but it was pretty cold earlier this week, so we've got bits of ice along the creek here. We might see, I was out here a couple days ago and the waterfalls were frozen over, so we'll see. They're probably still pretty icy. We'll check those out as we go. The land here is reasonably flat, right? We stay at pretty much same elevation, maybe a change of about 10 or 15 feet change in elevation, but the creek drops. The creek drops pretty quickly as we go along, so we climb up a little bit in elevation, a couple feet, but the creek drops pretty quickly. So that's how we get some of the waterfalls and the ravines that we'll see. Sometimes when I'm hiking out here, some farm dogs show up. I guess just from some of the neighboring farms, but I don't see many of those today, or not just today, but the last couple months. So here's a very I hesitate to call it a waterfall, more of a riffle perhaps. Here in the creek. Kind of a nice quiet spot. Sort of sit here and listen to the creek. Just go down. You can see there about, I don't know, 30-40 yards, the creek starts dropping. Okay. So today's hike will probably be, I don't know, about an hour. Didn't look at the time when I started. I should have, but we'll probably be hiking here for about an hour today. So maybe 3 miles or so. So here we go. You can see here the creek starting to drop over the section here. See the creek dropping there. And also see all of the dead leaves trapped. So those leaves, they might not be pretty, but they provide some habitat. I don't know in December what kind of critters might be in those leaves today, but scattered throughout Acres preserves, you'll see these benches. Leopold benches is what they're called. Pretty simple construction, just 6 pieces of wood. Right. 2 pieces for each side, and then a seat in the back. But they're scattered about, often nice places to sit and look. Again, head back here to Ross Run, the creek. Right, still a little bit of ice on the creek, but really nice views here. So for about the first half of the hike, we'll stay pretty close to the creek here. Path there, back down to the creek. So Acres Land Trust owns the side of the creek that we're on. The other side of the creek is private property. So you do want to be very careful and not trespass. And so you can see here, warning, a private property sign right there. But it's a nice view of the creek. So one of the frozen waterfalls. I don't know if you can see that through the trees here. We probably won't get a very good picture of that. We probably won't get much closer to that one. But so it is kind of wet. Like I said, it has rained a couple hours this morning. Got lucky here with this break in the weather. So as I mentioned, that will keep a lot of hikers away. Most people don't like hiking in the rain. It makes sense. Here's a trail that will take you off through the forest and take you up to the prairie and back to the cars. We're not going to take that. We will go here and look out. You probably can't tell from up here, but there's the first waterfall. So we'll hike around to the other side of that waterfall and take a peek at it. So right here, this is not actually a trail. I know it looks like one, but it's not supposed to be a trail, but a lot of people will hike on this. So here's the top of one of the waterfalls there. It looks like, as you're looking down there, looks almost like a four-wheeler took a little trip through the creek there. Look like tire tracks. Anyway, we'll take the actual trail around to the waterfall. So anyway, so hiking in the rain. As long as you have the right gear, it's not too bad, right? So it's in the 40s today, a little bit rainy. So I'm wearing a base layer underneath my jeans, right? A pair of not long johns, fancy long johns. And them jeans underneath. Got some waterproof boots on that go up above the ankle. Then I'm wearing a raincoat, right? Raincoat here. And I've got dry clothes in the car in case it gets too wet when I get home. But anyway, okay. So here we are, coming up at the first, or at the main waterfall, right? So a little bit frozen over, but it's flowing pretty good today. Hook you. So here's our waterfall. Right. Got some nice flow. You can see since the weather's warmed up a little bit. There's still some ice, but a lot of the ice has melted from when I was here the other day. We've got some Leopold benches here. Right, so you can sit and relax, listen to the waterfall. I'm not going to spend too much time here at the waterfall. Let's keep going. Talking about gear for the rain, right? So, as I said, I'm wearing clothes to keep me warm and dry. In case I do get too wet, I've got dry clothes in the car. And once you've just realized hiking in the rain, you're probably going to get wet, just take gear appropriate. Right? Stay warm, try to stay dry, but realize even if you try to stay dry, you might get wet. So bring change of clothes with you. If you do that, hiking in the rain can be enjoyable. Now, I've also hiked in downpours. That was not as enjoyable because you couldn't see very much, but you just kind of adjust your attitude, realize, look, this is the conditions, so I'm gonna hike there, right? I took a week-long trip in March of 2020, just as everything was shutting down, to a cabin in Red River Gorge, and it just stormed every day we were there. But I mean, we'd rented a cabin for a week. Didn't matter that it was raining or not, right? We had to make use of our cabin, so took some hikes, got some good hikes in. Got a little wet, but you know, we just dealt with it. It's a really nice view down into the canyon. Kind of looking back, see the waterfall. Look down here into the canyon. Really nice view right here. There's two benches back there near the waterfall, but I don't know. I think a bench here would be nice. And I think that right there, you can still hear the waterfall, still see it. A little bit further away, I think it's a better view right there. But whatever. People like sitting at the waterfall, so. Okay. Forgot to bring a hammer with me. So a little bit of a steep part here. So to help you through the steep part, they put in some steps, but the steps are put in with some metal rebar spikes. But over time, the spikes stick up. And so I meant to bring a hammer those back in. I'm aware of it, so it's not too bad, but sometimes they'll cover up with the with leaves, and then you don't see them, and can step on them and cause some unstable footing there. But yeah, so if you're willing to hike in the rain, you'll often get trails to yourself. Right, there won't be many other people willing to hike in the rain, and you'll see some animals, turtles and frogs that are not as active in dry weather, particularly dry weather when there's a lot of people around. So I've seen most of the turtles and frogs and toads that I have seen have been on hikes that were either rainy, or it had been rainy in the morning and it kind of cleared up for a little bit, but don't see as many turtles and such when it's a really nice day out, right? Because too many people scare the turtles away. So we're walking here through the forest. If you see all these trees here with the leaves still on them, right? Those white leaves, I like to think of them as ghost trees. They kind of look like the ghosts in the forest, but they're actually beech trees, likely American beech, right? So as they get older, here's an example of a mature one. As they get older, they have really smooth bark, and sometimes people will graffiti into those trees, carve their names. Unfortunate. Okay, we got a little creek crossing coming up. So in the summer, this creek is never completely dry, but it'll dry up a lot. But right now, with the rain we've had and the snow and the frost, creek's got some flow to it. So this is one of the reasons why wearing waterproof boots is a good idea. I got a couple steps on some rocks, but can't quite make it without getting a little bit wet. So this creek will keep flowing and take us up to the second big waterfall here. And there's a bunch of waterfalls that are just a couple inches, but then we have the first waterfall that we looked at, the big one there, that's got the most volume of water. It's probably about a 4 or 5 foot waterfall. This one here is probably 10 foot waterfall coming up. So looking ahead, it looks like there's still some ice on it, so we might get some good ice shapes on there. With the little bit warmer weather today, a lot of the ice is melting, but some good views here. Okay, let's take a look at this waterfall. So here we go, looking down. Not a lot of flow, and sometimes in the summer it'll just be a drop, a couple drops, but you see there where it's all landing. What's interesting, to me at least, is you see the big ice formation there where it's all the water's landing. And then you look, and you can sort of see the path, but you don't see much water. But then when it meets up with the Ross Run Creek, there's a lot of water. So a lot of this water goes underground. You can come out here in the summer and you have a little bit of a flow here with a pool of water underneath it, and then completely dry. That little, I don't know if you can see that little path there. completely dry, and then all of a sudden there's a creek again. So a lot of this flows underground right here. But so this is a neat little waterfall here. There are some people who will take a trail that's not really a trail, go off the trails, come down and get on top of the waterfall. You should not go off trails when you're hiking, but particularly on top of a iced over waterfall. That seems like a really bad idea to me. Okay. So we'll keep hiking here. So we're coming up now, getting out of the deciduous forest, hardwood and deciduous forest, and we're right here at the boundary between this forest and the pine forest. And the trail, one leg of the trail goes closer to the pine forest, one leg stays closer to the deciduous forest. I'm going to take the one in the pine forest, or sorry, the one in the deciduous forest here, but you can see, I'll walk up here and point out this trail for us, right? It goes here along the edge of the pine forest there, but we can go another 100, 200 yards in the deciduous forest. Looking here, this used to be an ash tree. You can see here telltale marks of the emerald ash borer. So what the emerald ash borer does, gets underneath the bark and it blocks the sugar pathways. All right, so sugar, the leaves make sugar, send them down to the roots to store for the winter, and then in the spring the sugar starts coming back flowing. Right, that's why we tap maple trees. But the emerald ash borer eats all that sugar, and it breaks all those flow lines for the sugar there. That kills the tree. This looks like a black cherry tree, maybe. Kind of looks like burnt cornflakes for the bark. It's a pretty good sign of a black cherry tree. Ooh. Trail's a little muddy, kind of slipped a little bit there. So you keep walking here. You can see the path is a little bit narrow here, and some roots and mud makes it a little not challenging, but particularly with the mud, just to be sure I don't slip and wind up at the bottom of the ravine. Although I don't know, maybe that'd make for a good video. But we got a tree that fell blocking the path a little bit. Get around there. Okay. So we're coming to the end of the trail here through this part of the forest, and then we'll hike along the edge of the pine forest. I've been coming out here to Ross Run about 10 years now, and when I first started coming out here, these pine trees had just been planted. Now, I mean, they were maybe 5-6 feet tall, and now look at them, we're 12, 10, 15 feet tall. But if you look, right, you can probably see how they're in nice rows. Eventually the trees, some of them will die and others will come up, spring up and such, and it'll take on a more natural shape. But for right now, right, we can just see these straight lines running through here. And And there's, between the pine trees, there's some oak trees, I believe, that are planted. Rows of oak trees and pine trees. But as I said, over time, some of these pines will die, free up some space. So starting to get a little bit more rain right now. Starting to get some drops. Gonna put up my hood a little bit. Right, I don't know if you can see here on my arm. Not too bad of rain yet, but it is starting to come down. It wouldn't be bad, but the low temps, right? Like I said, we're around 40 degrees right now. Makes the rain a little bit cool. Hopefully though, these low temperatures keep the ticks away. This is where hiking here is probably the place where I'm most likely to get a tick. I've probably gotten more ticks from here at Hathaway Preserve at Ross Run than any other place I've hiked. Now, I'll caveat that with, this is one place where I hike most often, so if I'm here a lot, I'm going to get ticks a lot, right? But I'll say there are other places that I hike somewhat regularly and I've never had a tick problem here. But temperatures are low, we should be good. Oh, a little bit of some transitional land here, right? Back into the deciduous forest, the little plot of grass, and then the pine over there again. But up here we'll make a turn and do a cut through this pine part. So Hathaway Preserve was donated by the Hathaway family to Acres Land Trust, and I want to say they donated it probably around 2007, 2008. I probably should have looked up a little bit more of the history before this video, but I have a general idea of the history. So the land on the other side of the Ross Run is owned by a different family, and I think if I owned the land on the other side of the creek, I'd want to keep it too. Although it would be nice to turn that over to a nature preserve as well. But so here we are going into the pine. So we got along the edge here, got some thorny things. Some of this is black raspberry, and some of it is probably goldenrod. Right here. Let's see if you can see this here. It looks like a rose bush. Right? It looks like a rose bush. Well, it's because it is a rose bush. But it is something called multiflora rose. multiflora. Multiflora. It is not native to Indiana. It's Asian. But it is invasive in Indiana. It is taking over in Indiana. And we'll see some more of it as we go along. Here's a bunch of raspberry. Right, you can see the kind of the chalky purple stalks here. Right, thorns on these things. That's definitely raspberry there. What kind of raspberry? I'm not good enough to be able to tell it by looking at the sticker bushes here, the stalks. This have a fancier name, but it escapes me at the moment. But probably black raspberries there. That'd be my guess. Some some variety of a black raspberry. That's what pretty common for this part of Indiana, to find some black raspberries. They like growing sort of on the edge of trails where it's not quite open space, it's not quite forest space. That's where it likes, so it can get some sun, get some shade. Oh man, there is a really big piece of multifloral rose right here. Big old one. And it looks like we also have here, yeah, so what I was doing, I broke off a piece of the branch to see if it was hollow inside. That tells me that this right here, I'm pretty sure is autumn olive. It's got a couple red berries, which you'll see. But the fact that it's hollow inside really makes me think it's autumn olive, which is another invasive. So right here we've got autumn olive and multiflora rose. What it does, a bunch of that multiflora rose here, really big multiflora rose here. What that does is it chokes out native plants. So it just sort of spreads and takes over. So you can see here, if you look, there's a dead pine tree right there. It's completely surrounded by the rose. A couple other dead trees there. Looks like sycamore trees maybe. But this stuff will just drown out native plants, which really makes you wonder if this is the climate, the temperature, and such, where these plants flourish. Why did they evolve somewhere else, right? Why didn't they evolve here? Why aren't they the native plants? You know, that's something I've always sort of wondered about invasives, is if they're better suited, if they grow better in other parts, then why don't they? Okay, bunch of multiflora rose, and you can see here we've got these berries, right? We see thorns and berries. So these red berries on the end of what looks like a rose bush, that is a clear telltale sign of a multiflora rose. So how it gets around, people hike and they'll get seeds on their shoes, on their boots, right? It's muddy today, my boots are covered in mud. I might have seeds on it. Nice little path here through the pine trees, right? Just looks like I could go running through there. But anyway, you get seeds on, and then you hike somewhere else, the mud falls off your boots, and now a place that didn't have multiflora rose, well, you just dropped off some seeds. So it's important, very few people do it, but it's important to clean your boots between hikes, particularly if you're going places that you know have things like autumn olive and bush honeysuckle and multiflora rose, garlic mustard, a couple of these invasive plants. If you're in an area where you know you're going to have those, and then you're going to an area that doesn't have those, you really want to clean off your boots between those hikes. Okay. Coming along here, where we are right now, it's a little bit muddy, but in the springtime, this can be just really slick, this spot right here. But it's not too bad today. Ground is still a little bit frozen. Maybe top inch of the ground might be thawed out from the warmer weather, but it's still pretty hard ground. When we make this turn, we'll get to see one of my favorite trees. Not not kind of tree, but actual tree. Right, just this individual tree right here. So, right here, this is one of my favorite trees. It's just right there, kind of at the edge of the trail, so you can see it, but it's not really on the trail. And it just looks like a perfect, almost like a perfect place to put in a tree house or to climb the tree. Put in hammocks or something. But that lowest branch is about 8 feet off the ground. Just a little bit too high that I can't jump up and get my arms around it. I've tried. All right, but just a lovely, huge red oak tree right there. Okay. So on the right side, we've got farm field, which means you often see deer, other wildlife, kind of the safety of the forest, but then go feed in the farm fields. With it being winter, the farm, the corn has all been harvested, so you're probably not going to see many creatures today, but you do sometimes out here. So I don't know if you can see the trail coming up. It's another muddy spot, always muddy right here. Up here. So just whatever. I wore my tall waterproof boots today, so I just know they're gonna get a little muddy. There's corn husks there. Probably something was over there eating and dragged it over here. It could have just been wind. Might have just been wind that brought it over. Maybe not an animal, but could have been an animal too. Here we got these bright red berries. I bet if we break off a piece of this, which you shouldn't do, but break off a piece of this here, I think it's hollow, because that's autumn olive there. Pretty sure that's some autumn olive. It's a lot easier to see from the leaves, but once you see it in the leaves, and you'll probably see it in some other videos that I post, but once you see the leaves, then it's almost unmistakable. And you'll be driving down the highway, and you'll just see it all along the highway there. I'm fairly certain that's what that is. Now, coming up, we do have some bittersweet growing. That's a native red berry. We'll look at that here. I'm gonna get out my phone. We're gonna see. Got an app on my phone. Let's get this out. An app called Seek that will help you identify some things. Okay. So look here. Let's see if it tells me what this is. It's probably not going to do a very good job. This is telling me it's coralberry. It might not be autumn olive. Might have that wrong. Yeah. If I was good, I'd go through and edit that part out of the video. But I know back there was some autumn olive. also possible the phone got it wrong. Who knows? But when there's leaves on it, it's unmistakable. It's got almost the leaves are kind of, they're not smooth, they're kind of a little wavy, crinkly on the edges. And the bottom is almost like a metallic silver. And the top is a dark green. It'll be one of the first plants to leaf out in this area, so puts leaves out so it smothers some of the other plants around it. Okay, bittersweet should be coming up here. Here's some more multifloral rose, all in here. Those red berries on the thorny things. Bunch of multifloral rose in there. It does smell good. And it has the scent of roses when the flowers are on there. It's not quite the kind of roses that you might buy somebody at Valentine's Day or something. But it does have roses. This boardwalk right here is a little bit slick today. I'm trying to take steps carefully as I get through there. Don't take a fall. Okay. Coming up here. Now, okay, just trying to see get a time check. We're at 42 minutes here. More multiflora rose. Right. But here we go. Now we've got some bittersweet. All this orange and red. Zoom in on some of that. So that's some bittersweet. Right. Nice, almost fluorescent orange casing around some red berries. Okay. So coming up here, we have a choice. Two paths to take to get us back to the car. To the left takes us back into the forest. To the right takes us through the prairies. I'm gonna go through the prairies part today. It's really nice in early spring. You'll see a lot of wildflowers in bloom in the prairie part, but probably just gonna see a lot of brown today. So to the left takes us back into the forest. To the right here takes us out to the prairie. We'll go this way. In about 10 minutes, we'll be back near that first place where I stopped to cross the creek and make sure I didn't slide. Well, this used to be more prairie land, but it looks like we got some trees that are springing up. So, I don't know, maybe a couple more years this might be forest as well. Got some oak trees in here. These are some kind of white oak. The exact kind of white oak, have to think about it a little bit, but something in the white oak family. Yeah, so it looks like I'm starting to see a lot more tree growth in this area here. So there was some trees, but mostly grassy. But now it's the trees are really taking over. Again, you can see maybe a bunch of what would be wildflowers in the spring here, but now it's a lot of brown. It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Seeing brown. Just a lot of people don't like that color. All right, they want to see the spring wildflowers, the summer wildflowers, and then leaves changing in the fall. Winter, a lot of people don't go hiking in the winter. I think winter hiking is some of the best. In part, the trails are less crowded, and because there's no leaves, or very few leaves on the trees, you can see a lot of things that in spring and summer and even in the fall are hidden by the leaves. So, like my favorite tree I showed a little bit ago, you know, when that's all leafed out, it looks beautiful, but you can't see all the branches. So in the winter, you actually see the branches on that thing. So, coming up here, almost to the road. We'll make a sharp turn to the left. But we're getting pretty close to the road there. You can see those utility poles. Those are right along the edge of the road. We'll make a turn here, sharp turn here, and then head back to the cars. The car, I guess just my car. But so, well, so this is my first video. Didn't really have a plan for the video. I was just gonna kind of talk and walk and see how it turns out. As I make more videos, we'll try to kind of have a little bit better theme, and they might be shorter videos, more focused. But this is my first time doing a video. I just wanted to experiment a little bit with it, see what we can see and such. Hopefully the microphone is picking up my voice. That's the other thing I wanted to try. See if the microphone picks up my voice. I might, if not, I might have to get an external mic to plug into my GoPro so I can hear it. But I'm hoping this picks up the sounds. So I don't know, for a first video, I wasn't expecting a whole lot. Just kind of trying to get through parts of it. But I do have cell coverage out here. A lot of the places I hike, I don't get cell coverage. So I thought about doing live stream videos. I could have done it here. Pretty good cell service out here. But some of the places I go, there's no cell coverage. So I don't want to promise any live videos, because I just don't know if there'll be cell coverage. But I know when I hike down at Shades State Park and Turkey Run State Park, definitely Shades, there's almost no cell coverage. Turkey Run, you pick it up in a couple spots, but the nature center has free Wi-Fi there, so when I camp there, I'll go to the nature center, check to see if I have any important emails or such that I have to respond to. Usually I don't, but sometimes I get something. So I'll check that in the mornings then. Okay, and we are heading back to the cars now, almost there. I was out here the other day, Sunday. Today's Wednesday. I was out here Sunday hiking, taking pictures. And right here I slipped. I didn't fall. I did slide down this. So I'm gonna probably, I don't know if you can see that little slip in the boot print right there in the mud was probably from me on Sunday. So I'm gonna be smart about things today, knowing that I slipped all through this on Sunday, and walk along the edge of the trail in the grassy area rather than the spots of mud. Avoid slipping today. It's always a smart thing if you can do it. Hey. Okay. So something else to keep in mind, just finish up here with the tip. Oh, there's a pumpkin. Pumpkin right there. Did not see that the other day. So it'll rot away and maybe grow some new pumpkins. I'm sure the deer will be happy about that. But okay, anyway, caught my attention, so I thought I'd talk about it. But this area here, okay, it doesn't look like it right now, but I know from hiking here in the summer that there's poison ivy that grows in this area. And poison ivy can still get you even in the winter. Okay, so while it might not look like it, knowing that there's a lot of poison ivy in this area, even though I can't see it right now, I know it's there. So I'm not gonna touch anything around this area because I know there's poison ivy. Back to this spot where I gotta hope that I don't slip. There we go. Okay, and we're almost back to the car. As I said, this video is going to be about an hour, and we're probably pretty close to that at this point. So. Okay, well, so I'm almost back to the car. So, as I've mentioned, this was kind of a trial video to see how it would work, see if the microphone could pick up my voice, see if you could hear the sounds of nature and such. I'll probably go ahead and post this video anyway, even though it's a trial, but just so I have some experience with it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, maybe learned something. And as I said, my next videos will probably be a little bit shorter with a little bit more focus. But thanks for taking a hike with Tim.